start. I think it's on now.
So is mine on?
Yours is on. Yeah, I'll click yours too. Are we all live? Great. So what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. I know today is the first Sunday of 2018. How you guys feel about that?
Awesome.
Excited.
Awesome.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. I know if you're watching this video right now, you might be getting ready for the new week, or maybe you just you went to church today and you're spending some time with your family. And today we want to talk to you about a topic. We want to talk to you about the middle class lie. And before I get into it, first of all, for those of you watching right now, make sure you let us know where you're from, where you're watching the video from, and we're gonna have a free giveaway. We're gonna give out this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a New York Times bestseller by Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about the middle class, you know, what the rich teach people about money and what the middle class don't. So if you're live right now, one question I want to ask you is this: do you consider yourself part of the middle class? You know, and if you do, why? And I know for me personally, I came here from Ivory Coast, immigrant. I wanted to have a shot at the American dream. I wanted to have a degree. People told me that if you want to have a shot at the American dream, you need to have a degree. You need to go to college. I did all of that. And 2008 was the real estate crash when the market went down. I couldn't get a job. I graduated in 2011. I was doing a lot of job application. Nobody wanted to hire me. And when I finally got a job, I realized that even with the income I was making, I wasn't really making enough money to support my family. So the middle class lie really hit me, and that's what we want to talk to you about today. So if you're struggling with anything from student loan debt or maybe credit card debt, it's a burden for you and your family, or maybe you're a single mom and you're trying to provide for your family, this is something that's going to make a lot of sense to you. So stay tuned. So I want to start by giving brief introductions to two gentlemen here that I'm excited to be with. First is Mr. Ben Beal, also known as the legendary coach, former athlete, and originally from California. You can see from his shirt right here, he's a big Lakers fan,
Right.
which is one thing I can't stand about him, just playing. And we also have Mr. Manny Lopez.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing
Pretty
great.
good, pretty
I'm
good.
also a Laker fan.
Oh, you're also a Laker fan?
I spent
You know, it's
24
funny.
years-
I'm wearing yellow, but I'm not even a Laker fan. Anyway, so we're going to...
I spent 24 years in California.
24
prior
years
to
in
moving
California.
to Texas. So
Do we have anybody from California in live right now?
Hopefully we do.
Hopefully do. So we're gonna share with you what we believe are the middle class lie. First, what's the definition of the middle class? So if you're watching right now, if you consider yourself a middle class, just hold on a second before we go through the definition. So according to the e-commerce department, there are basically what we call 6 basic needs that people need to have to consider themselves part of the middle class. Number 1, they need to have enough saving for retirement. We know today a lot of people don't save for retirement because of the economy. Number 2, they need to have a proper saving for college education for their children, for people who have a family. And 2 cars. Number 3, 2 cars for the family. So if you have a family of 3 or 4 kids, husband and wife, 2 cars. They also need to have money for vacation, being able to go on vacation. So that's 4. 5 is healthcare. And if you still listen to all these basics and you can't say that, you can say to yourself that you're part of the middle class, then listen to what we have to say. So my story was kind of like simple. I want to start with Mr. Ben Bill, kind of like tell us a little bit about what's the definition of the middle class for you, and how does the middle class affected your life?
Well, thank you. So, a little bit about me. I was a former athlete. I was an Olympic hopeful, wanted to go to the 96 or 2000 Olympic Games and run track and field, and did pretty well at that. But after I got finished, with my collegiate career, just like everybody else, I had to go out and get a job. And most of you guys, if you're not entrepreneurs, you're watching this video from wherever you are. Most of you have a job and you work a job. And for me, I worked a job, and I was that guy that worked, from associate to assistant manager till I became a store manager and working in the retail industry. But the problem that I had was that the fact that, every job that I worked with, they went bankrupt. And, it was really hard, going from job to job to job to job, when they went bankrupt and I didn't do anything wrong. But I was told to go to school, get a good education and all those things. But I was always looking for a job, and then when you get to the middle class, here's some of the things that we face as the so-called shrinking middle class, because that's what's happening right now. Number one, going to college. When I went to college in the 90s, it cost you about $30,000 a year to go to school.
That was pretty cheap.
Yeah, very cheap. Now,
Very cheap.
as of 2015, it cost you about $94,000 to go to school. So if I look at it, when I went to school, it cost me $30,000, but my nieces and nephews, it's costing them close to $95,000 to go to school, and that's just crazy. Who has that kind of money? And then purchasing a house in the 90s. In the 90s, it was about $101,000. Now the average mean for a house as of 2015 is $220,000. And then you think about the cost of goods and services. Gas was $1.12. Now it's $2.33.
People still used to complain back in the days when
Back then they was complaining about gas.
Yeah.
And you think about it, if you're from where I'm from, California, $2.30 is like free gas. Since I moved to Texas, they got free gas because the gas is about $2.35. And then, if you have kids, which someday I'll have kids, but if you have kids, and I know you have kids,
Yes.
and Manny, you have kids,
Three.
to raise a kid only costs you about $115,000 from 0 to
telling you.
18.
even those diapers are expensive. man.
Exactly. But
Everything
now,
is expensive.
but get this. Now it's going to cost you about $245,000 to raise one kid. That's just astronomical. You have to have a whole second career just to raise
And 3 part-time jobs.
and 3 part-time jobs just to raise a kid.
That's very true.
Right? And then you think about it. The average person in the 90s made about $50-some thousand, right?
So that was like the average income
The average
for
income.
average Americans.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
was in the 90s. And as in 2015, it's about $55,000. So it hasn't changed much.
So the cost of living is going higher and higher every day, but people are making the same income.
Or maybe went up a little bit, but have not kept up
Okay.
with the rate of inflation and the rate of goods that continues to go up. I believe in the 1970s, from the 1970s to the present time, things have gone up between 200 and 300 or 400%, and I hate
Wow.
to
300%.
and I hate to date myself, but looking at this panel right here, and Ben represents the Gen X. I'm a baby boomer guy,
And I'm a millennial.
I'm a
Proud to
millennial.
be a millennial.
So I'm going to take you down to
Gen X
memory
guy.
lane for a little bit. I can remember, and we can get into a contest here, but I remember when gasoline in 1968, 69, it was 27 to 29 cents a gallon.
Wow.
All right. So if we can go that back, I can tell you that things are not looking very good in as far as the middle class shrinking.
Yeah.
Wow. So, your story was very powerful because I know you came here from a communist country, Cuba. You came here for the American dream. You wanted to have a better chance in life. Walk us through your journey coming to America, and how was it like your perception of the middle class, the American dream, and what did you find?
Well, I have to go back to my childhood a little bit. The first 7 years, we used to have democracy in Cuba. The middle class. Pretty much like the United States. I remember going to the Sears stores in downtown Havana and a lot of the things. So until 1959, when communism took over. So before we even talk about the middle class, I think we need to talk first about the two systems.
Okay.
Because there are two systems. We all know about socialism and communism, and that's what happened in Cuba. Now, when some of that type of system takes over, basically it promotes equality, but in return you're going to sacrifice your freedoms. Every kind of freedom.
And it's interesting because a lot of people don't really understand the difference between socialism, capitalism, and communism. So you kind of like
it's very important
for people who
to understand
know.
the difference between socialism and capitalism. They're looking for equality, which that's fine, but you don't need to sacrifice your freedom. In Cuba, we sacrificed the free enterprise. The government took over the businesses. So if you own a business, now it's owned by the government. If you own a house, they took it away from you, and now you pay rent for the government. Everyone make the same type of money. So that is socialism. Basically, it promotes equality. But my dad used to say, yeah, everyone is equally poor. So we need to understand that before we even talk capitalism. That really is what the essence of the middle class and
free enterprise
and the free enterprise and all the things in America. And I'm very concerned nowadays. You've been a millennial. Don't take offense, but about 29% of millennials nowadays, they believe that socialism is a good thing. All right.
I think maybe it's a misunderstanding because.
Well, no, there's a lot of take it for what it is. There's a lot of indoctrination coming out of our school system, vilifying capitalism. Capitalism is evil. If you own a corporation, it's evil, and so on. So, of course, if they tell you so many times a day that you're evil, you're going to believe that.
So that goes back to the whole definition of what we call the middle class lie, right? Because why is it a lie? Like for me personally, like I said, my story coming here from another country. When I came here, I remember having a conversation with my cousin's friends, and he was a guy that I had a lot of respect for. And I sat down with him, and it was just me and him. And I said, I want to ask you a simple question, and I want you to be honest with me. What do I need to do to have a chance at the American dream? I'm here now. And he said, well, you got to go to school and get a degree. So that's just stuck with me. From that point on, I said everything was going to work fine for me. But today, according to statistics, 86% of college students don't have a job lined up when they go out of college. So I guess the real question is, like, why are we told that the only way to be successful, the only way to have a chance is to go to college, and then when we get out of college, we can't even get a job? Because there's a lot of millennials today. There's a lot of people in this situation, right?
That's really what we've been taught from, the turn of the century, though. I mean, is to go to school, and get an education, and then we're taught in schools to work for somebody. Yeah. And, if you look now, most people today work for people. But in the turn of the century, most of those people work for themselves. And the middle class is being squeezed out just because of that. Because if when I lost my job and went from one bankruptcy to the next bankruptcy, what was my alternative? Was to go back to school, to spend another $40,000 or $50,000 in school education.
And student loans is insane right now.
Yeah. And that's what we've been taught. Yeah. And for years and years and years, that's what we've been taught. And that's not always necessary the best thing to do. There's other alternatives. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree with that, Manny?
Yes, absolutely. And going back to what you said a minute ago, Ben, the free enterprise, back in the 1950s, about 28.8% of Americans owned their own business, and now it's down to about 7.8, I believe, as of 2013, wow. The last numbers that I saw. And, you're either going to work for the big corporation or you're going to work for the government. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what? They're going to control you because they're going to control when they hire you, when they fire you, when you go on vacation, when they can retire, and when they can give you a raise. That's true. So you really have no control over your life.
Yeah. To me, as being a millennial, one of the things that bothers me the most, especially is student loans. Because I have a lot of friends. There's a lot of people that I know personally. You know, they went to school, they got a degree, and like we were listening to the story of this lady earlier on YouTube. She has $118,000 in student loan debt. Can you imagine $118,000? And she has 3 jobs. She has to take 3 jobs to being able to, you know, pay off her student loan debt. And she said with every single month, she pay attention to this, every single month, she spends $707.54 to pay off her student loan debt. The interest for the student loan is about $600, and the principal is $64. So she's actually paying more money in interest than she paying principal just for student loans. How is she supposed to survive with that? You know, she was talking about how now she has to go through her closet and make sure she get rid of some of her clothes. You know, when the winter comes, she get rid of the summer clothes. And when the summer's, and then she got into a car accident. She got the money from the insurance company, and instead of fixing her car, she used the money to pay off her student loan.
I have an answer for her. I tell you this: if you follow Grant Cardone, like many of us do, America doesn't have an expense problem, and that's what she's talking about: selling her clothes and selling this. What she needs to do is
she doesn't have a choice. Yeah.
Well, go and become an entrepreneur and get control of your life and make more money, and then you don't have to worry about selling your clothes and shoes to pay your student loan.
Well, here's a question that I have. What kind of clothes are you wearing?
This is getting heated right here.
What kind of clothes do you have to sell that you can pay your student loan? Because I don't think any of the clothes that I wear that I can use to pay any of my student loans back. I mean, you know, I have a.
She must have some fancy clothes.
Man, you know, I wear Jordans, and I know none of my Jordans are gonna pay any student loans off. So she's got some great clothes.
Especially after you wear them free a few times. I mean, they lose.
They don't depreciate. They appreciate. I don't know.
Yeah. Another statistic here. They say currently over 44 millions of of people in the U.S. have student loan debts, and the student loans is about $1.4 trillion in student loan debt. That is absolutely astronomical.
Well, and that ties in with the amount of money that, you know, we're in the greatest country. That's why my parents gave up everything. They risked everything, including their life, to come to this great country. But guys, there's 66% of Americans today are making under $41,000 a year in the greatest country ever. All right, and it has to go back. How do we define the middle class? The middle class is defined by income and consumption. Income, basically, if you talk about the median income in the United States, and it could vary from state to state, but it's about $55,000. So between $39,000, you have 3 types, lower middle class, and upper middle class, but somewhere in between the lower and the middle class is $39,000 to $118,000. All right. So we need to look at that. And then we need to talk about consumption. And that is going to tie right in. We're the biggest country. We buy the biggest houses.
We drive the biggest cars.
Yeah, well, especially here in Texas, right? Yeah. Everything here is big. But, the average home or medium size of a home in the United States is 2,400 square feet. And if you look at the cars, we consume a lot. And that could be a topic for another 2 or 3 hours, because
definitely.
When I came here to this country, I said, you know what, if I go out and I go to school and I get a job and I'm making $60,000, $80,000 a year, I should be able to buy my house, my car, put my kids through college. But take a look at this. You buy a house, you put a 20% down. That means you have 80% at risk that is owned by the bank. You buy a car, and it's the same way. If you don't pay it, they take it away. If you don't pay your home, they take it away. If you don't pay your student loan, everything that we're doing, we're borrowing money all the way from the top of the government all the way down to the citizens. We borrow about 46 cents out of every dollar just so we can pay our bills as a country. So it's something that we have to look at. like we were talking a few minutes ago, income hasn't gone up much in the last 30 years.
It's about the same.
But we continue to increase our consuming, and because we're borrowing money.
And then the cost of life,
Yeah.
the cost of living is also very expensive too.
Yeah, and it keeps going up.
It keeps going up.
Keeps going up. So what's happening is you have the 1%, and then you have the lower class, and what's happening is it's doing like this. So the richer continue to get rich and the poor continue to get poor.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is the middle class, which most of you guys that are out there, watching and following us, the middle class is actually starting to go away.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was watching this TV show called The Business of Life on YouTube, and the host was actually there was an audience, and he asked a question to the audience. He said, "How many people here consider themselves middle class?" 90% of the room, everybody raised their hand, right? Mm-hmm. Then he said, "Okay, according to the e-commerce, the commerce definition." The definition of a middle class is somebody who can, afford 2 cars, buy a house, have retirement saving for them, for their kids, college education, and healthcare. And then when he asked again, who still consider themselves middle class, only 50% of people raised their hand.
Right.
And there was a young guy from Flint, Michigan. He got up and he said, "Well, I don't know if I'm a middle class because from the neighborhood I'm from, we're not worried about college education for the kids. That's off the table. We're not worried about retirement. That's off the table. We're trying to survive." So some people basically they're still in the illusion that they're part of the middle class, but they're really not. They might be middle income, but they're really not middle class. Robert Kiyosaki in his book talks about how actually what some people call the middle class in America today is the working poor.
Right.
Right. So,
well, and if you remove, if you go and consume and buy homes and buy cars and all that, and you're borrowing all this money to have it, then what happens if you get sick? You get sick with a critical illness, heart attack, cancer, whatever it might be, and you're not able to work. You lose everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're not really a middle class when you're borrowing about probably most everything that you own is you owe the money to somebody. So that means you don't own anything.
So most of us are working poor, not really middle class.
And the crazy part about that is, throughout our histories and generations, being part of Generation X and the millennials, we've been lied to for most of our lives on what is the middle class. And how do you, and if you are middle class, the question that I have for you is, how do you stay there?
Yeah, interesting. This can go on and on. This is, I don't know if you guys ready to wrap up or you want to keep going.
Well,
no, because this is just the first video. We're gonna have some more. And
I think that we stated the case that perhaps, hey, maybe we can do this again, and we talked about the definition of the middle class and the light and so on.
Okay.
And maybe we can come back and maybe offer some solutions.
Okay, offer some solution. Yeah. So for today, we just wanted to go over the definition of the middle class, why we believe that we've been lied to as a middle class, the middle class lie. So for the next video, we're going to talk about what caused this middle class shrink. Why is the middle class shrinking in America? What is happening? So before we wrap up, first of all, I want to say thank you for you guys watching right now. And so for the free giveaway, like we said earlier, we're going to give a free book, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, New York Times bestseller. And if you want to have a chance to win this book, you need to answer one question. So the question is the following: which country is Manny Lopez from? I believe we said that at the beginning of the video, right?
So if I get it right, do I get the book?
No, you can't. You can't play if you're in the video, man.
You should have that book already.
Hey, I'm competitive. I like winning.
Let's see who's.
Did anybody answer the question?
I see you over there. Okay.
What's that one?
I see somebody put a smiley face. What is that?
So we smile back.
Which country is Manny Lopez from? So if you haven't had a chance to hear that, you can go back and watch the beginning of the video. And the first person to answer the question right, Argentina. No, he's not from... He looks like an Argentinian guy.
Yeah,
He's from Argentina. Okay. No, it's not Argentina. It's another country. Who else? So wait, so this is what
Let me give you a hint. It's a country in the Caribbean.
So if you get the question right, we're gonna ship this book to you free, and you get a copy of these phenomenal books. And yeah, we're gonna get ready to wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. We see you next time for probably next Sunday.
Yeah, we'll post. We'll keep
you posted for next video, and we want in the next video we're gonna go into more of the cause of the middle class and the shrink of the middle class in America.
And we're gonna bring a solution for you guys.
And bring a solution to the problem. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you very much, and we see you later.
Remember, don't buy into the middle class.
Don't buy into the middle class lie.
Join the movement.